Oh, all right. That was a long one. When you start YouTube, you click and it's like going live, and it's usually 3 seconds, and this was like 15 seconds. So awesome, awesome. Let's vote all around the world, morning, afternoon, good evening, wherever you come in from. Glad to see from my man Vic this time is a little better for Fridays. So we'll see what the turnout ratio is, and we'll keep mixing it up for you. But Vic, always a pleasure to have you. Always glad to have you here. We got some good morning, Erics. Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, Vic, we're gonna go deep, my friends. We're gonna jump in deep because of Vic gets the first question. Are you reading any right now? Now, I could look at that question and I could give a nice answer. I could give a sort of awesome answer. I could give a politically correct answer, but I'm going to give the real answer. So right now I am reading Neville Goddard collection. He's interesting. He's one of the, I sort of call him the early pioneers of self-development. Like, you don't hear about him a lot, but a lot of his stuff really is what the modern day folks have built on. So I think he wrote a lot of his books in the early, like 1920, 1925. And to me, it just resonates with me. He's written like 10 different books. If you're going to go down that route, a couple of warnings, but I'd recommend you buy, let me make sure I get it right, the Neville collection. It's Kindle or it's a thick book that you can buy, but it has all 10 of his books. Some of his books are like 20 pages. Some are 50 pages. They're pretty quick reads. That's what I like about Neville and how he writes, is he gets a lot in, very concise in terms of his writing. So do that, because I think the whole Neville collection is like $5 or $6. And if you buy the individual, they're like $6 each. Just be warned, buy Neville collection and start going through that. But the reason why it's deep, he's a on top. It is, I mean, the Bible, number one most read book out there. So, whether you're jam or not, right, or you have religions, it still has some value in it. But here's the twist that I just want to give you, being open-minded. In his mind, the Bible is actually a teaching manual of stories and analogies of how to live your life. So he doesn't actually believe that the Bible is a factual transaction of actual lives. So whether, right, it is up to you, but in his mind, it's basically self-help stories that teach you about how to have the life of your dreams, how to create the life of your dreams. So it's an interesting twist on how he does it. The other interesting twist, and like I said, this is him, not me, right? But I just want you to be prepared so you don't read this book and be like, what is Eric smoking, right, to recommend this. The other big piece is his whole philosophy is, if God is your father and you are his child, right, then you have God with you. So his whole thing is like, when the Bible talks about, I am and all that, what you're really referring to is your conscious. And then you go in and it's your unconscious. So for example, one of the big scriptures is ask and it shall be given to you, knock and the door shall be open. In Neville's mind, it's your conscious mind is what asks and knocks and plants the seed. And if you truly believe it, then your unconscious mind will create it. And your unconscious mind will manifest what the conscious mind believes or creates. So it's like I said, it's some deep stuff. I've been going through it for a while now. I read it before and I was just sort of reread it again and just going through it again and really dissecting it down. I like reading books multiple times and really diving and saying, how can I apply the book to my life? So that's what I'm currently reading now. Like I said, the first couple times you read it, if you're new to Neville, you're going to be like, it's going to get, you just got to have an open mind to it and not sort of get rigid into religious type things. And then it's a great book. So that's one of my favorites. I'm going through the classics now, so I'll give you the three. I'll give you the full titles on it. So we have the Neville collection, which is one that I really, really like. The other one is, of course, Napoleon Hill. He's one of the other. Think and Grow Rich. He also has his collection, so I definitely recommend you get that. And then two other classics. These are all 1900. The original ones is Wallace Wattles. Wattles, Wattls. Once again, get his complete collection of 9 books. And if you don't know the movie The Secret, or you read the book The Secret or any of that, and she tells you how a book was given to her that changed her life. She doesn't tell you what the book is in the movie, but she doesn't hide it. It's actually Wallace. One is INN. And she was a writer from the 1900s, and her books are The Game of Life and How to Win. So that's where I'm at now, is I'm going back old school. And I said, okay, what's the original origin of Selfhelp work? And it really goes to the Goddard, Hill, Wiles, and Shin. If you really they're them dissecting those out and going through it, and it's great stuff there. So any of those, you can't go wrong. Like I said, pick up the collection. Don't buy their individual books because it's going to cost you a lot more. Get the collection, and then you can jump around a little in terms of how that works. All right, so we went, like I told you, we're going to go deep, quick there, thanks to Vic's question. Let's jump into a couple of, I guess, business side now that we did some mindset work, which I love and appreciate you asking that. My boss, the CISO, so sorry, I read ahead of the question. I couldn't help laughing. He goes, okay, let me keep a straight face. My boss, the CISO, is incompetent, and no one above them sees it because they don't know what a CISO role really is. And just so you know, I was laughing sort of with you, not against you, because I feel your pain. I've seen your pain. I've lived it, right, many, many times. So I definitely understand what that happens. Yes, and just to give you a backdrop before I get to your question, is analysts supposed to do, but they have one. And especially with all these and then in a so and be their friend, they speak their lives, they're comfortable, they think they're in great shape, but because the executives don't really understand what it's supposed to be, the CISO is that they're incompetent in understanding. If somewhere somebody gave a chief, they probably have some competencies. They probably have some competencies in some areas, just not in the areas that. So that would be my first piece of advice, is just because if you're approaching some and you're an individual across, right? It's good. There's no possible way, if I go into a relationship and I'm thinking you are a total Buffon Nimrod, that I'm going to actually come across sincere and nice to you, right? So it's going to be hard. So the first piece I would say is maybe change your frame a little bit, in that they have competencies in other areas, but not competent in cybersecurity. And then that's going to help you frame what I give you with your question. And I'll jump to your question. Do I let them fail and hurt the company? Or do I keep fail and hurt the company? Or do I keep making them look what you want? Do you know that a situation where you want to learn a little more, you want to grow, and then it goes back to that. Does the CISO see the value they add? Do they see that you are helping them and good and covering their butt? But if they do see the value, and there are things you can learn from them, like on the business or the other side, and there are things you can learn from them, like on the business or the other side, I would say, could you work where you become the deputy? So why don't you run X, I do Y, and I become your deputy. And I work with you in that area and that function. That to me is really sort of the best way, the win-win. Because honestly, the first one, do I let them fail, and hurt the company? Here's the issue. If you don't have a relationship with that CISO and the executives, most likely, if they fail, you're going to fail. Because it's one of two things. They're either going to blame you, and then you're going to get removed from the company, or you're going to get frustrated and leave. Or, so to me, option, you need to start looking for another job. You need to keep job until you find another one, but you need to be aggressively being looking for another job, because clearly this isn't going to work. Right? If you're at the point where this person's truly incompetent, the executives don't see it, they won't listen to making them listen to me, what I'm saying, and I'm just going to keep making them look good and be anywhere. So I'm just done. I'm not going to play the L. Well, at that point, your decision. It's time. It's Zakion or Zay, because I don't know if it's first or last name with your login address, but I would say this is one where these are great continuous conversations. So I would love next week or the following week, jump on and give us a quick status. Give us a quick update. Let us know where we're at. And I can sort of keep coaching you and giving you advice. But I hope that sort of gives you some initial things to work with and to focus on. So then we have Annabelle is in the house. Morning, Dr. Cole. What is a good execution strategy for protecting intellectual property on the endpoint and on the in-prem data centers? Great question. So the best strategy is to make sure that you have data is, and it's inventoried, and you're clear about who can or who cannot access it. The biggest challenge with intellectual property, especially when you start getting into endpoints and others, is inventory and management of the intellectual property. So if we sort of, with that frame, let's step back. When we're talking about intellectual, sorry, it's a warmer day in Virginia, so I love having the window open in my office. I tell you, without fail, when I jump on the Zoom, the garbage truck. When I jump on the Zoom, the garbage trucks come. Garbage day for us. So it cracks me up. They never, ever come this late. They always come at 7 in the morning, but of course today they're coming a little later. So the background noise is there. We'll get through it. We'll have some fun. But back to Annabelle's question. So the frame to really look at it is this. What we really want to be able to answer when it comes to intellectual property is, what are your critical assets? Where are they located? And who has access to them? And we need to be able to control and manage that. Because if I can have a list of this or these are my critical assets, I know where they're located, I can control and manage them. Back on is, do you need to store it on the endpoint? When you start storing intellectual property on the endpoint, it creates a whole new level of complexity. Right? It creates a whole new level of demons that you got to deal with, especially in this work from home environment, where now you have everyone working from home, all these, I mean, it's just, people can now thing are controlled. And the, so to be my two is make sure you can answer those questions, look at some software equation. All right, Ben, we're instant friends because I love it. You call me Dr. E. Right now, if you really want to win points with me, you can call me E-Dog. Right? That's what I came in this morning with my staff, and I'm like, E-Dog is in the house, and they're like, no. I'm like, come on, can we make that work? And they're like, no, that's not going to work for you. I went away with my family in December. And it's funny, we went to the Dominican Republic, and I go at all the restaurants when the waiters and stuff come over. I'm like, they're like, hey, we're so-and-so. And I'm like, hey, I'm Eric, but everybody calls me King. And my kid's like, Nobody calls you that. I'm like, I know, but I got to get the trend going. I got to get the trend going on that stuff. So yeah, yeah, I always joke with my team. I'm like, E-Dog, like, yeah, we are not going to call you E-Dog. We'll call you other names, but we're definitely not going to call you that. But I do love the Dr. E and the Dr. Cole and all that stuff is awesome. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So what are some of your favorite questions that a CISO candidate should ask in an interview? Actually, I'm going to change it a little if it's okay. I know, I know. If you do traditional, old school, I grew up, I don't even know if it's still around, but I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s with What Color Is Your Parachute? Where that was the book, right, on interviewing and jobs and resumes. And basically it was all about, oh, when you go on interviews, you have to ask questions, right? You have to do this, this, and this. Yes. And I will give you a few. But the bigger focus I really want to answer for you, because I think it's what you really need, is what are the answers you should be providing that they're not asking you? I learned this a while ago. The first time I had a couple rounds, by the way, with McAfee, and not a lot of people know this, but the first time I interviewed for the CTO position with McAfee and met Dave DeWalt, the CEO, talking, and I started asking him, like, Dave, CTO, I could really help you out. And I said, I'm curious, why didn't you hire me? He goes, Eric, you were awesome. I remember you. I'd love to have you here. He goes, but the reason I didn't bring you on is you didn't have the international experience that I was looking for. And I'm like, really? I said, you do know that I've built out programs for the Bank of Singapore and Australian government and Saudi Arabia. And I start going through all that. And I'm like, Dave, you never asked me that question. And this is when it hit. He looks and says, Eric, I know. But the better part was, why didn't you give me the answer? He goes, you knew this was an international company. You knew that we were trying to grow internationally. And you knew that US was pretty much saturated. So if you knew all that, why didn't you give me the answers that I wanted to hear? He goes, because when I hire executives, I know if I give them a question, if they're good, you'll give me the right answer. But what I want to see is, do you volunteer the answer if I don't give you the question? This is from, if you don't know Dave DeWalt, I mean, he did FireEye. This guy's one of the top executives, VCs in cybersecurity. That is input and advice directly from him. So I really want you to think about more of, what are the answers you should be giving? So let me answer that first, and then I'll get back to your original question. So the answers you should be giving, regardless of the questions, for CISO, you know their numbers. Today, many companies are public, even private companies. You can find out if you go and search up Secure Anchor. I was shocked. I did this because I was curious, and they're pretty accurate with our numbers. I've never told anybody, I've never said anything, but just there's enough data out there. You can get pretty close. So whatever company, especially the larger the company gets, the more visible they are. But you should make sure you're giving answers that you know the numbers. Somehow, somewhere, someplace, hey, I know last year's numbers were 800 million, and that was a 20% increase from the year before. But the most interesting part is your margins shifted from 17 to 23%. And to me, I think that's the most important part to focus on. And with proper security, and with security integrated into the business and done correctly, I think we could even get those margins to 25. Right? And now you're shifting everything, and they're sitting there going, holy moly, we got a unicorn on our hands. We got somebody who can understand and speak business and focus on the business and focus on what we need and what we're looking for. Other one is, I know in a lot of cases that boards and others sometimes get frustrated with cybersecurity folks because they want to get technical and too in the weeds. Now, I will tell you, when I'm with my team and I'm working with the engineers, I can geek out. But what I think my superpower is my translation. You drop me in a room, I will see what language you're speaking, and I will automatically translate to that language. So you put me in a boardroom and I'll speak business. You put me with VPs and I'll speak VP. You put me in operations, I'll speak operations. That, I believe, most critical skill that a CISO should have. So what I recommend is you have 4 or 5 of these. And I cover this once again. My intent of these is not to upsell. It's to spend time with you and help you. But next Tuesday, we're actually running our How to Become a CISO. It's a short course. I think it's a 3-hour course. And I actually cover all these questions. So I'm giving you stuff now, but if you want more of it, it's in that. This course will always be available recorded, but Tuesday is the last time I'm doing it live. So if you want to get in on that, it's a $750. You get the live, you get the pre-recorded, you get access to me for a couple of hours to interact. So if that's something that's of interest where you're really looking to become a CISO, really push into that area, definitely recommend you look into that. I don't know if one of my team members are on, they can drop the link into the chat window so everybody has that. If not, if you just go to secure-anchor.com or just ping me at ecole@secure-anchor.com and we'll get you that information. So if you want more details on that. Now, Ben, I know the long way to get there, but to answer yours, the questions you should always be asking is, who am I reporting to? How long has there been a CISO? Am I the first CISO at a company? What are the key things that you're looking for a CISO? And then my magical question, the billion-dollar question. What are the things that you're going to use to measure my success as a CISO? Drop the mic, walk away. That's the question right there. My success. What is your criteria that you're ultimately looking for? So that's how I would approach that. We have some questions where you want to understand and know the business and where it's at. But what the impression, you got to do this lightly. But if you do it correctly, it is so powerful, and it's this. You want to make it crystal clear in a very non-aggressive way that, listen, you might think, and once again, don't say this. Do not say this, but this is the message you want to get across. The message you want to get across and how you show up and how you act and how you respond is, listen, you might think I'm here to impress you. You might think I'm here to interview for your job and for you to determine whether I'm a right fit for your company. But you're mistaken. If you haven't read and you don't know, I'm a badass. I go to any company, anywhere, anytime. So this is really about me interviewing you. This is about me understanding your company, understanding your culture, and see if it's a good fit. Just think about that. You see the power you have. Now, you don't say that, you don't overly aggressively do it. And if you use what I just said as your mindset correctly, you are walking as a superhero because you are in control. Now, if you let your ego get control of you and you go too far with that and you become an a-hole, right, it's going to backfire on you and they're not going to want to hire you. But that's the part that most people miss, is when you're at an executive level, it's as much of them interviewing you as you interviewing them. You don't need this job. You want this job. They don't need you, you want them. It's totally different because when you're out of college and you're looking for your first job, you're desperate. You're like, I need a job. I'll take whatever job. I need this. I need this. I'm at your mercy. You could hire a ton of people. I can't. And it's a completely different mindset. But most people haven't interviewed for 5, 10, or 15 years. And when you get to CISO level, when you get to executive level, it's a different ballgame. You got to change the game you're playing. And it's all about you are in high demand. And this is a two-way street. I'm interviewing you, you're me, and we need to make sure it's a good cultural fit on both. So I have a chat with open my team always monitors that I'm getting yelled. I'm not supposed to curse. I'm sorry. I'm gonna that's on this call is a badass, right? Why can't we say it? It's true. You guys are freaking believable, and you need to know it, own it, and become it, right? So I just, like I said, my team's yelling at me, but we're having some fun. So hopefully nobody gets upset with it because, like I said, it is true. You have to own who you are, and you are a badass. So just, I don't think there's anything wrong with calling the truth, the truth. Where are we at? Is the CISO responsible for risk management? And what size? When you start getting into the B's, the billions, 2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion, that's usually management to be a separate team or a separate division. Under that, when you're in the single bill or hundreds of millions, usually risk is under security or it's co-shared auditing and security. Cybersecurity, what is the definition? Understanding, managing, or mitigating the risk of your critical data being disclosed, altered, or denied access. So the fundamental engine of what we're doing in cybersecurity is risk, risk, risk. So it's one of those where you can't remove the risk, right? It's like if you go in and I'm trying to think of a good example here, right? If you remove the lemon, you don't have lemonade, you have water, right? So it's like, it's one of those things where you can't go in and separate it too much. So yeah, corporate risk and business risk and operational risk might be in a different person, but digital risk department and a VP of risk, and they put everything, and it's like, no, no, no. If you want to take the risk of a hurricane hitting one of our production plants in Mississippi, take it. But if you want to look at the risk of a denial of service or ransomware attack impacting our business, that's mine, and you ain't taking it because then there's nothing left. So you want to make sure that with risk, we're careful of how much is allocated or taken away because the fundamentals of what we're doing is actually risk. So then we have another question. Good morning, Dr. E. So happy to catch you live today. Awesome, awesome. Glad to have you here, CJ. How would you approach a new CEO that has stated they are not concerned with cybersecurity and more focused on political wins? Awesome. This is how you approach him. What are some of the big political wins you're looking for? Can you let me know one or two of the big political wins? Because here's what I found. In my experience and in doing this, the quickest, fastest, easiest, and most guaranteed ways to get political wins is to make sure that you have a robust foundation in cybersecurity. I know that those two don't seem to go together and they seem bizarre, but let me give some examples. We had a client of ours that was winning politically with the board, was showing the numbers, was showing everything in place. They didn't think cyber was important. They didn't meet with cyber at all. They didn't really invest the money or anything else. And they had a major breach. And the board turned on the CEO and said, you should have been more focused on cyber. This was something that's a predictable area today that you did not focus on. And basically, all of the political components they built up were destroyed with one breach. So you sort of position it in that way. You take what they want and you make it align with what you want. The things you want to avoid is contradict or go against, where you go and go, listen, you're wrong. Political wins are not the most important. They're shut down. The way you get across to CEOs, execs, or others is agree with them and show them how your agenda aligns with their agenda. And show them, especially if they're really concerned with political wins, you show them that, listen, I know I'm a CISO, I know I'm cybersecurity, I know it doesn't sound like it, but let me prove to you I am and will be your biggest political ally. You want me at your right hand. You want me at every meeting because I am going to be your best ally when it comes to politics. What if that was your message? What if that was your goal? Now you might go, but Eric, what does political ally have anything to do with cybersecurity? It doesn't, and it does. It has nothing and it has everything. And let me explain. In order for you to win at cyber, you have to have the trust of the CEO. Once they trust you, they will give you whatever you want. So if the only way to do that is to become a political ally, then why not spend 3 months becoming a political ally? You're playing 10 moves ahead here. You're going, but Eric, I'm spending 3 months doing very little cybersecurity and focused on this CEO's political agenda and becoming a political ally. Yes, so for the next 9 months, you can get whatever you want. Is that a pretty good deal? I think it's a pretty good deal, right? So it's knowing when you get to a C-level with a CISO, it's not the technical knowledge anymore. It's, are you a master chess player? Can you step back and go, okay, short term, this looks stupid. But if I want checkmate in 10 moves, this is the best move right now. I don't know if you're chess players or anything else, but it's always called the sacrifice your rook or sacrifice your queen or whatever piece you want to play for the greater good. Right? I play chess a lot and I always test folks and stuff. And a lot of times I want to get them off guard. So I'm thinking 10, 12, 15 moves ahead. And I basically will sacrifice a piece that looks valuable because I want to catch them off guard and have them do something stupid. And they always do. They always do. And I'm setting them up. So it's one of those, don't look short term and go, this looks stupid. Step back and say, is this the best move if I want to win in 12, 18, or 24 months? About terminology. Is it correct to say something isn't a threat or something isn't a risk? Or is it fine and it doesn't really matter? Well, what it really comes down to is it's a threat is a threat. You can't say something isn't a threat. Like a hurricane. A hurricane is a threat. It is a real threat. But if you're in Chicago, in the United States, if you're foreign, it's in the middle of the country. And by the way, hurricanes only happen by oceans. So I don't think Chicago ever got hit with a hurricane. I don't even know if it's meteorology possible for it to happen. But the point is, a hurricane is a threat. So saying that a hurricane is not a threat is not correct. Now, saying that the likelihood of a hurricane in Chicago is so minimal that we're not going to consider it as a threat, or we're not going to address it as a threat, is perfectly cool. But once again, saying that it's not a threat is not accurate. Now, it's a tomato thing, but the point is, it's not that something is or isn't a threat. It's likelihood that determines whether you focus on the threat or not. And then the same thing with risk. Risk is really about impact. Right? It's really about the impact to your organization. So something is, if a risk is a risk. So once again, saying it's not a risk is not really correct. Saying the impact to our organization is so minimal that we're not going to focus on it. Or the amount of money we would have to spend to mitigate this risk far outweighs what we would spend if the risk actually happens. So therefore, the cost benefit analysis, once again, isn't worth the energy or effort to put into it. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page. It shouldn't be going in and looking at risks and threats as binary. Are they or are they not? From a security standpoint, you should be looking at them as likelihood and impact. What is the likelihood and what is the impact of these happen? And therefore, are they worth our time, energy, and effort addressing it, or are they just not at the top of the list? So cool. Blazin said, I missed you last few episodes, but then I saw you on TV. Pretty cool. Yeah, we're sort of cranking up security again, and that's always nice when the media recognizes how important cybersecurity is. Oh, I didn't realize. Okay, hopefully we're better now. I'll look into it, but Vic and CJ are like, the video's a little choppy. Yes. Okay. I didn't even realize that. I will look into it and see if we can try to vamp up. I'm in my studio, so that's a little bizarre, but thanks for letting us know. And we will definitely take a look at that. Love chess. Yeah, chess is awesome. It's a fun game. Good to sort of use some of the different creative parts. What I do now with chess, and it's just an interesting way, because to me, life is a game, chess is a game. What I try to do when I play chess now is, how many moves ahead can I think? I don't care whether I'm beating you or not, but how many moves ahead can I think through this? And it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was playing one of my friends, which the fact that he plays chess with me is an honor and a privilege, because he's like grandmaster level and I'm not, and he almost always wins. But I joked the other day, I'm like, dude, I won. He's like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yes, I did. I said, because I made a move, he made a move, and I said, okay, I concede. It's like, but you never concede, you never quit. I'm like, no, I'm seeing 12 moves ahead, and I didn't see it before, but as soon as you made that move, I saw it. No matter what I do, you will win. And I said, and let's have some fun. Let's switch positions. Let's test my theory that it doesn't matter what I do, you will win in 12 moves. So now you become me, you're a much better player, and let's see if you can defeat it. And we play it at that level. And of course, he switched and he couldn't, because he's that good. He set me up. So that's what I'm doing now. Whether I win or lose, it doesn't matter. But if I can see 10, 12, 15 moves out that I'm going to win or you're going to win, I call that a win, right? Because it's that hindsight of how far ahead can you predict and see what's happening and what's occurring. Oh, wait, what happened? What happened? The comm messages disappeared. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening here. Okay, but yeah, I was in the middle of answering his one question, and then a comm pulled his messages. So I hope that was on your end and not our end. But those were good questions, my friend. Those were really good questions. So if they're there, put them back. So then Vic said, oh, I asked because sometimes I see reports as top 10 threats or top 10 risk, and I wasn't sure if they're the same thing. Yeah, so a threat is the potential for harm. So when you see reports with the top threats, those are things that can cause harm. When you see risk adds in a vulnerability. So what a risk says is there's a threat and there's a vulnerability that exists that therefore makes it a high risk. So threats are saying this is what could happen. Risk is saying, and it can happen to you because you're most likely exposed. So that's the only difference there. A threat is just what could somebody do? And then risk adds in the vulnerability to manifest itself. Excellent. So I think at this point, we are done. And like I said, I try to keep it about 45 minutes. We ran a few minutes over, but always appreciate it. Always have fun, and I'm going to have fun. So I'm going to sign off with something new and unique. Remember, I believe it, and it is true. And now you need to believe it. Do you truly and honestly see your potential? Do you truly know the greatness that's within you? And do you truly own that you are a badass? Right? Because you are. That's what I want you to work on this weekend. I want you to get that level of confidence that you are unstoppable. And have an amazing weekend, and I'll see you all next week. Thank you again for joining me, and take care.